Hi there, thanks for coming out, and I think this is going to be a real interesting evening. Derek is a great guy, so you're in for a real treat tonight. I was reading today, actually, that magazine down there that you all have, Venice Magazine with Derek on the cover, and it said at the beginning of the article, it described him as a modern-day Lana Turner, and I'm going like, I don't think so. But I know what they meant, because Lana Turner had one of the great discovery stories in the history of Hollywood. And Derek had one of those kind of Cinderella moments too, but as you'll find out, it wasn't like overnight. Anyway, he's clearly a star on the rise, as we all know. He's already won the Breakthrough Performance Award at this year's Hollywood Film Festival for his amazing performance in Catch a Fire. And he won the Independent Spirit Award, as well as recognition from the National Board of Review for his first film, Antoine Fisher, another amazing performance. His other films include Glory Road from earlier this year, Friday Night Lights, Spartan, Biker Boys, Pieces of April, and he's currently going back and forth from New York to here. He's making a movie there called Definitely Maybe, and he's going to leave later. Definitely Maybe, that's... and he's going to leave later tonight to go back to New York to finish that film. So without further ado, please welcome the star of Catch a Fire, Derek Luke.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, welcome. Thanks for coming out here.
Thank you.
To
Thank you for
SAG.
having me.
We're in the James Cagney room, which is kind of like great Hollywood history. And when I mentioned here in your intro that they compared you to Lana Turner in Venice Magazine, I got to ask you about that, since that's such an interesting reference. But you were sort of discovered working on a lot, not on a soda fountain stool like she was, but you worked in the Sony store or something at Sony Pictures?
Yeah, I kind of snuck in the audition. It was I wasn't invited, so I had to make my own provision. And I was working in the gift shop. When I moved from LA, took a lot of odd jobs, and I landed in the Sony gift shop. And basically, I had no car, no anything. I just had a gorgeous wife who believed in me. And I had auditioned for Antoine Fisher. And basically, my fifth audition, as I read for Mr. Washington, I heard nothing. A day, a week goes by, and then a month, and the real Antoine Fisher happens to be in the store. So I'm speaking to him, and I'm bagging his clothes, and he's buying for his kids. So I'm there, and next thing you know, I'm walking him out, and as I'm walking him out, Denzel Washington is walking in. And he's like, Antoine. And then the other Antoine responded. He says, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to him. I hired you. Oh, you're my new Antoine Fisher. So,
That really is one of those rare kind of Hollywood stories. But you had been struggling for a long time as an actor before that moment. It wasn't like that just sort of happened overnight.
No, it's acting was always a dream of mine, and my mother, raising three boys, she really didn't know how to direct, me, because I lived in Jersey, and they call it Little Beirut because it was inner city and a lot of shooting and everything else. No offense if you're from Beirut, and, but it was or Jersey, Jersey City.
PS41.
What? Oh my God, man! Hey, man, how you doing? Hey, dude, this cat look familiar. I went to PS41 too, so yeah, man, you threw me off. So basically, I always had a desire to act, and my mother didn't know how to steer me, and she basically said that I came up to her one day and I says, "Hey, Ma, I wanted to act," and she says, "Well, when you get old enough, if you have that desire, then I can't stop you. Launch out. But I'm taking care of three boys, Derek. I don't know what else to tell you."
Wow.
Yeah.
And your father, who left when you were about 10 or something? I
was about,
like
9 or 10.
9 or 10.
Yeah.
He was also in show business.
Yeah, he was. All types of show business. My dad is from Guyana, Georgetown, Guyana, and he left and ran away from home at an early age, went to London to pursue acting, and also he was a singer. And he performed and did different television shows on the BBC, did movies with like Diane Carroll and different people that I had no idea of. And I think that's where I get my roots from.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you talk to him now about that? And has he been to your premieres and your success and seen your?
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing about some of the roles that I've been playing, it seemed like they're all about men. And because as a kid, I think I had such a challenge as a young guy not having my dad there, and just having my dad at the premiere is such a forgiveness step. And and it kind of, a lot of films that I've got a chance to be a part of kind of depicts me and my dad's relationship. So, but yeah, he does come, he's excited. I was in New York the other day and I was at a party and I got to meet Harry Belafonte for the first time, who was my dad's idol. So I just felt like I was bridging his gap. And he spoke to my dad, he says hello, and my dad just was ready to fly from Miami. I says, hey, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get to LA? I mean, you decided at some point to come here and really pursue acting, or how did it happen?
Only entertainers that I saw where I grew up was more like drug dealers. They had all the money, they had all the glitz and glamour, and they had all the girls. The first time I ever saw an actor was a guy named Lorenz Tate. He came into this store that I was working with. He was with a rapper, and they were shooting this movie called Dead Presidents. And he inspired me. So me having no money, working in this sneaker store, I basically met this guy who was selling buddy passes, and he worked for airline tickets. So he said, you give me a discount, I'll give you some airline tickets. And he gave me 2, and it was a coincidence that they were just a 2 round trip to California. And I gave one to my friend, and I kind of said a prayer, and I said, I will never return on this round trip until I make it. So that was how I got a chance to come to California.
Wow. And
yeah.
Antoine was not your first acting gig, though. Can you tell us, what was your very first one, and what was that like?
Oh, yeah. Man. My first acting gig was, I think it was on Moesha. And it was this was a powerful line. I told Brandy, I says, "Get out my face." That was my line. So I just was flying high too. I remember catching a bus from Pasadena to the set, and I was just wanting this guy on a bus to ask me where I was going. He was reading the paper, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he would go, "Well, I'm going to work. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm glad you asked me. I'm shooting over here," and he starts asking. So that was my first gig, and my one-liner, which was to me, it was like doing a movie.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you working? What were you doing? Day job at that time?
Well, I coming back from back east, you always learn how to hustle. You learn how to do whatever it took, and I didn't want to feed off of anybody, and I was already living with a guy who I met on the East Coast that was from LA, and he was already generous. He shared his bunk bed with me, so I wanted to hurry up and get off that bunk bed, and so basically I took odd jobs. I sold cologne. We call it No Frills Cologne. It didn't have the actual title, but if you believed in the fragrance, it can be whatever you want it to be. So, that and my God, me and my wife, we moved equipment in Orange County, just trying to get $100, and that was huge. But it was fun, but it was painful because I saw my wife carrying these heavy boxes. I always remember my mother always telling me never let a woman carry anything heavy and open the door first. I just saw my mother's face like flashing, but we needed to pay rent. So I says, babe, go on, you know. You got to get over it, you know.
Even though mom's face is flashing there, it's okay.
It was flashing, yeah. So.
Now, was your wife in acting too, or how did you meet her?
Yeah, I met my wife at this life-affirming seminar. It was a place that shows you how to birth your dreams into reality. You know, I was broke, bad education, so I had nothing to negotiate with. So I was willing to take anything that was life-affirming. And I heard about this seminar, and it's a place where you just go and you just focus for the weekend, and people speak into your life. And their motto was, you know, 1,000,000 positive words to 1 negative word, you can birth your dream into manifestation. So I meet my wife there, and some of these guys are hitting on her, and by the end of the night, I'm really into it. And she says she comes sits next to me because I looked innocent. I'm like, what does that mean? You know, so she came and she sat next to me, and in my heart, I knew that this was my wife.
Really?
And
wow.
seven months later, we dated. It was a funny story. My ex-girlfriend dropped me off that night, but she didn't pick me back up.
Ah.
So I needed a ride home, but I didn't know this woman was from Pasadena. So the guy says, anybody going to Pasadena? And this woman raised her hand. I was like, man, this is a sign. Yeah. So I got in the car with her, never got out. 7 months later, we got married.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice story. And you're still married. How many
Yes.
years?
Wow, you're surprised.
That's a great Hollywood. Yeah, you never know in this town. But
no, I hear you. I hear you.
How many years now?
Almost 8.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge for you during that period, just to keep going and to keep your dream alive? Because obviously you were really focused on it.
My biggest challenge was the mental challenge. One, I went through, not being negative, but I went through every negative reason why I can or shouldn't make it as an actor. One, started first African American, because this is what you hear. Wrong side of the tracks, you're from the wrong place, no education. And and what I learned was I started looking at all the successful people I looked at, admire, and they were black, white, Asian. And I start seeing a common principle inside of everyone. And that common principle, one, I says, well, obviously these people are from different ethnicity, different backgrounds. So if they can make it, I can, but I need to draw from whatever it took. And so my hardest challenge was the mental challenge. It wasn't the acting classes, it was the auditions too. Getting turned down about 200 times will do something to you. So, yeah. He's laughing.
I know, because I don't go out on audition. But all these guys, they go out on audition. They know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's got to be debilitating after a while to have to go. Well, you probably don't have to go through it as much.
I audition.
Do you still?
Well, I audition for Catch a Fire.
Oh, there you go.
But I think it also it keeps you grounded, it keeps you charged up. Mm-hmm. There was not such level as I thought you reach, and you start gliding. There's levels where it helps you, but I still audition, and it is still a place of humility when you walk in there, because there's nothing between you and that part except your soul, and you have to give yourself, and you have to impress these people. And that's what was the challenge. I always tried to impress the casting director, producer. And then I read this book, and it says, stop auditioning and start presenting, and it changed my life, because I looked at myself as an art or a flower, and I started saying here, where before I was trying to get approval,
And that made a big difference in the way you were received, you think?
Yeah, at least for me, because I was so nervous. My palms would be sweaty going into an audition, and, you know, you would read with people that is not giving you the same energy. And, you know, after that, your manager, your agent, or my wife at the time, not at the time, my wife calls me and says, you know, she's so cheery. How did it go, honey? I'm like, good. And she would go, are you saying that because you're being positive, or are you saying that because it was good? I'm like, babe, pick one. I'm just, I need help right now. So, yeah.
Was there a role you just knew you wanted to play, you didn't get it, it was so frustrating to you, and you looked at the guy that got it and just go like,
oh, you want to go there?
Yeah.
A role that I thought, before I say it now, I'm actually happy because these guys are working, and it really confirmed my reality in a way. But I won't say that I was angry. I think I was always got to a place that the only thing that kept me going, like I said, was the life-affirming places, and I'm not trying to run away from it, but I got to a place where I said, you know what? Every part that I don't get was not meant for me. So the part that I'm going to get, that starts my destiny and my character, and that starts writers to look at me and want to write for me. But there was many movies that I did not get. A movie that was similar to Antwone Fisher was Finding Forrester.
Oh, sure.
And I remember reading for that, and I was like, man, I want to be in a movie with Sean Connery. But in the back of my head, I remember my pastor saying to me, it was like he was preaching to me, and I listened to it, and he says, you know, never envy somebody. And I look back and I says, there's not one role, even though those other actors got it, that I wanted more than I wanted Antwone Fisher, even though I didn't know it existed. And when I saw that, I says, well, you know, there's something bigger than me happening, and it must be destiny.
Yeah, and it clearly was. Let's talk about the audition process, because you mentioned at least 5 auditions for Antwone Fisher.
Yeah.
Were they all with Denzel, or did you go through the casting directors first, or how did that work?
My first one was on the Fox lot, and it was with Christian Kaplan. And I told somebody I was an intern for Eddie Murphy or something like that. And I says, while I'm here, you know, I says, you know, Eddie told me that you guys are seeing, you know, these actors, you know. So I said, sorry, Eddie Murphy, but you know, you seeing these actors, so you know, I'm here, you know, and I don't want him to come over here for you and do all that, you know. So, and they were like, well, sir, there's no auditions being held right now. I'm like, well, I know that, but when they are held, me, you know. And I walked out there with pie all in my face. And my friend actually worked on the lot, and he was afraid to come up there. He says, Derek, you can get blackballed from the business. I says, well, I don't have anything to get blackballed from. I don't, you know. So basically, long story short, I found out I told him who I was looking for, and he says, and I thought it was a woman. And he says, he called me a week later and says, Derek, guess what? The woman you said Christian Kaplan is a man, and he's my boss's best friend. And he says, I'm gonna try and get you, you know, an audition, but I can't promise you anything. So I went. He called me back a few days later and says, I got you a meeting. I says, well, what does that mean? And he says, you know, like a 10-minute meeting. I says, well, what, you know, he says, I says, you mean an audition? He says, yeah, that, whatever y'all call it, you know. And I says, well, you know, it's important. You need to go find out what it is. I read, the audition went okay, but I got so frustrated with myself that I think Christian Kaplan said to me, he says, I'm tell you what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give you another chance. And he told me to come back 2 weeks later. Came back 2 weeks later, read, went much, I mean, he was excited, waited, and then I found out that the movie went away. So obviously, maybe Denzel started making $20 million. I'm like, hey, dude, don't you see me over here? But he went and started making movies. It went away, whatever the problem was. Came back and I read for a different casting director, Robbie Reed. Got a call back, and then the next day from her, she says, your callback's not here, it's with Mr. Washington. I freaked out. I was on the freeway, right? Or no, I was downtown somewhere, and I just bolted out of the car, right in the middle of traffic. And I was like a fish, you know, and then obviously I had to come back in the car, but, you know, so I read, and I remember walking into the room, and Mr. Washington, he had on sweatpants, green, and he had a hat, and I remember him standing like, how you doing? You know, I'm like, I'm good, how you doing? And then what impressed me about him, he introduced himself to me. And I'm like, dude, I know who you are, you know? And he was like, well, you never know. And he was just normal. And I came in with this magazine, and because I remember reading in the audition, and as soon as I walked in the door, he used that prop, and he started acting with me. He started saying, what is that? You know, what's in your hand? And I says, man, is this guy acting, or is he talking to me? And then from the door, the audition started, and obviously it exploded. I don't think I've ever mentioned it, but got to a part in Antoine Fisher. I auditioned for the part where Antoine sees his mom. Well, anyway, it got pretty emotional, and Denzel cleared the room. He told the casting directors, the producers, he told everybody to get out. And we started chatting and talking. And I'm facing this way, and he pulled his chair and he was facing that way. And I'm like still like boo-hooing, and he's talking to me, and I'm like, this dude is interesting. You know? I'm like, I said, man, he must really cares about acting and the actors. And anyway, he says, well, when I thought I had the part, he says, in my mind, I said, maybe this is going good. He says, I'm gonna call you back for a callback. I came back for the callback, and I thought the callback was just so iffy. And that's when the gap of time happened. Day, week, month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks. And then that's when he came into the store. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he heard that I worked there, and he didn't know I had met Antoine Fisher like years prior, but I would see him when he come in the store because he was writing. Mm-hmm. And basically, you know, that was kind of the front end and back end of the story. And he also told me that somebody came and told him that he had the part, and the only difference with Denzel and me, he says he ran like 6 blocks, and you know, and I just kissed him and hugged him, so, yeah.
And then how soon did you start shooting the movie after that? It
was, I think that was around May, and, but let me tell you the awesome thing about my wife. I called my wife and I says, babe, I didn't get the part. And my wife said, where is he? Is he in the store? She says, Derek, I know you're lying. And to me, that was the most powerful moment because she believed in me. Yeah. She was always cheering for me. She always thought she saw something more than what I saw. And to me, that was like it. So we started, that was around April, May, we started filming, I think in September or October, and we were training on a Navy ship. And what happens is, that was 2001's 9/11. Mm-hmm. We were training, we were supposed to be out to sea with the Navy, and what happened was we get a call, alarm goes off that next morning, and man, these military men, they're like, these 18, 19-year-old guys, I just give them so much respect. They were just ready to go for war, and I don't ever know what happened to those guys. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, when you were on the set with Denzel, what kind of director? You know, you've worked with Peter Berg also,
yeah.
And they're both actors. Is there a difference in working with somebody that is an actor than other kinds of directors? What was Denzel like on the set?
Oh man, his first word to me was colleague. He treated me like a colleague. He never, I don't know what happened, but I heard him doing doing an interview or something. He says, well, I figured he can do one scene, he can do 40. He was just so easygoing. He treated me like a colleague. He never, when we started filming, he made the whole set into an actor set. And what I love about him was he never told me how it was to be an African-American actor, or I think he was treating me on how to be a man and as an actor. And sometimes I would be in a scene and I'll be slouching. He says, Derek, sit up. And he says, you don't want to look like that on screen. He was just so, the things that he mentored me on was less acting, but it was more of life, you know. And he told me, hey, this is the trailer, this is this, and this is that, and you know, this is what it means to carry a torch or to do that. But he never talked about much acting, and only direction I remember him constantly repetitive giving me was he used this slang. He said, take it to the bricks. Well, bricks is a slang for Jersey, growing up in the inner city. And sometimes when I would be trying to be conservative in my approach, he was like, take it to the bricks, forget about it. Take it to the bricks. And that would be the approach, you know. And he was so normal, and that I was like, man, is this the same man? And right when we were shooting, his film was coming out, Training Day.
Oh, yeah.
And because, you know, I would look at him, I was like, oh, yeah, here's the Crimson Tide dude, here's this dude. And I was just, in my mind, I'm having fun and games. And then I go and see Training Day, and there was another reverence and respect that came over me for him, because he scared me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, there's got to be an extra challenge, not just in doing your first film like this, but playing somebody that you know, that's alive, that you're doing his life story.
Yeah.
Was Antwone Fisher standing there behind the camera the whole time, or did he allow him on the set at all? I mean, what was the process?
Denzel's rule was like, hey, Derek, I played a couple of real life people, and it's best, you know, I never like meeting or really dealing with a real life person because it can make you self-conscious. So he says, well, what you should do is, I think I may have seen Antoine maybe twice on set. And after that, that was it.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though he had written the screenplay and they didn't have any changes or anything, or it was just...
Yeah, because he says, you know, Derek, Antwone Fisher is about many men in the world. So you need to embody the spirit of him more than you need to mimic him. And it turned out in embodying the spirit of him that captured the essence of who Antoine was.
I'm curious, what was Antoine's reaction when he saw the film? And what did he say to you?
I didn't ask him.
Really?
No, I didn't want to know. You know, I just wanted to not ask, you know, because, you know, here's this man's life, and, you know, Denzel is directing, and I didn't ask him, but he came over to me one day and he patted me on the shoulder and he says, good job. And that was a lot for Antoine, who didn't say a lot many times. And I believe in my heart that was a good thing.
How did that change your life, that whole experience of Antwone Fisher in general? Obviously it had a big impact, and then you know, dealt with the aftermath of it. You won awards for it. You were suddenly in the spotlight. People were writing about you. It's a whole different aspect for an actor than from what you had experienced before.
Well, I think it rippled down from my family. My mother says, you know, Derek, I just feel like you broke, or this movie broke the spirit of poverty over the family. And that was so powerful. It took me a while just to chew on that and see what that meant. My grandmother, who is a very spiritual woman, who doesn't BS. I'm over at the house and all these people are over, and she had not been to the movies in 50 years. And you know, it was big for her to leave her church structure, so-called people's mentality, to go into a movie theater. And she said to me, she says, Derek, I can say one thing about this movie or about being famous: it brings the family together. So for those coming from the women who helped carve and change my life, you know, it was huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what was it like? Yeah, it's amazing. You were suddenly the breakthrough, person. A lot of people were writing about you, and then you won the Independent Spirit Award.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting experience too, because you actually had experience with the Independent Spirit Awards before.
Yeah, I you was talking about all the odd jobs. Me and my wife, anything that was paying, that was on a Saturday, that was aside from my job. And I got a chance to work at the Spirit Awards, and I used to bag the bags, and I remember seeing actors like Don Cheadle and different people go by, and I'm gonna say other people was tempted to take the goodie bags, and I always said to myself,
"Those are nice goodie bags."
Those are very nice goodie bags.
Very nice, I know.
Very nice. I repeat, very nice. And matter of fact, I didn't get one that night either. So, but I said, you know what? I'm not gonna take the bag. And I remember just waiting the tables and doing all that other stuff. And it was a few years later, 3 years later, and I'm maybe 2, and I'm riding down, and the difference was we were in this Nissan Sentra, and the styrofoam was missing from the front when she dropped me off. Now we're coming back 2 years later, and we're in a limo. And I'm like, my wife says to me, she says, "Man, Derek, this looks familiar." And I'm like, "Nah, I says, it's Santa Monica. What do you think?" And she says, "No, it looks very familiar." And I was like, "You know what? I think you're right. It does." So as we get closer and we closer, and I'm like, "My God, it looks like I think I used to bag bags here at this thing." And I'm sitting there, and I look, and I see Brad Pitt, and I'm like, "Oh my God, man, that's Brad Pitt." So, and just many different other actors, and next thing you know, it must have been like I was in another world. I just heard them call my name. And the only thing I remember doing was being in the air, coming back down. And when I got to the stage, I really realized that it gave me a more point of view of, wait, I've been on this stage, I have been setting up the mic, I have been bagging the bags, and I was like, oh, I got it. I used to bag bags here 2 years ago. So it all came to me, and people was like, what? And I was like, and then my man, him and his wife, and can't mess his name up, brilliant actor, he presents me this award, and just such elegance. So anyway, that was the story.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so Antoine Fisher, big hit, big breakout thing, and then where do you go from there? And I'm wondering what kinds of things, were scripts suddenly thrown your way, or?
Suddenly you know everybody, and everybody knows you, which is a good thing, because I'm a people person, and I worked in a lot of gift shops and sneaker stores, and I was just very personal. So, it was fine, but what I didn't understand was Antoine Fisher was almost a reflection of where I could be or where I potentially could go, opposed to what was going to happen. And because Denzel said to me, and I think he was smiling. He says, "Don't quit your day job." And I says, "Is he dissing me? Is he making fun of me, or is he not encouraging me? Is he trying to be honest?" And then later he came and says, "Derek, I did the same thing. I left my job." And I think what he was trying to tell me was that, Derek, these stories and what happened to you is very rare. And me, as a naive person and not really knowing the business and the ups and downs, he was saying that, not that you won't work again, but Derek, these scripts are not, every day. And it took 4 years for that to catch up to me. And it took 4 years to find out that opportunities are like seeds. You have to water it, and you have to let them grow, even if you're, I don't care what movie you're in. So that was a learning curve.
Wow. So what did you do? You did Pieces of April. Was that the next film?
Yeah, I was flown to New York to audition on the producer's frequent flyer miles, and I was the last person to audition, and I just said, oh God, I hope I don't have to come back, go back to LA without the job. So last person to audition, as I'm walking out, they say, hey, wait outside, come back in, and they says, how would you like to be in the film? And I think I was more excited about that than I was about Antoine Fisher.
Really?
Because I love the story, and I love the cast.
You played opposite Katie Holmes.
Yeah.
We all know what happened to her.
Huh? hey, I don't know
Just
what you're
got
talking
married.
about. Okay, yeah, she did. I wasn't sure where you were going.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah. But this was a tiny little independent movie. Probably, how long was the shoot on that? It was
16 days.
Yeah.
Me and Oliver Platt shared the same room. He has hairy legs. Sorry. And it was 16 days, and the budget I think was $326,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And Patricia Clarkson, she was nominated that year for that.
For an Oscar, yeah, for supporting actress, yeah. And you did spend the family there it was like they were on the road driving to this Thanksgiving dinner and that sort of thing. What was it about the character Bobby that you played that you related to so much?
I think it was Bobby was just a new generational character. It was a chance to be. I had a crush on Katie Holmes. I remember, first of all, being that these two characters got a chance to be with each other, and that Bobby in this story represented pure love, in the fact that her other boyfriends had failed, and she told her parents that, hey, I got this new guy, and then told her father, Oliver Platt character, hey, and he reminds me of you. And I thought it was a new generational message, and I wanted to be a part of it. And that's what kind of drew me to the part. Yeah.
Then you got to work with, this must have been really, this would thrill me, David Mamet on
man.
Spartan. I mean,
it thrilled you, huh? Man, that dude would not let me out. He would just tell me how to act. He would go, oh man, we're on TV.
Oh, it's okay.
But he would go.
You can say anything. This is just DVD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a fact. But anyway, David, I knew nothing about besides. I knew more about his name than I knew about his reputation, and I remember being on there with Val Kilmer, and he was so impressed about how Val was he enunciated all his words, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna have a problem with me, man. I only had a 12th grade education, and I had an inner city education, no offense, but he would say, I want you to walk this line, and at the end of the line, I want you to say your line with vigor. And I'm like, are you serious? And I'm glad I didn't know, his reputation, because if you're worried about who he is, you can't do your job.
Right.
So David became almost like a father to a son. He would walk by me, bump me, and he would wrestle, and we would start wrestling. And what I like about him, he was like a man's man, and he spoke his mind, he wasn't afraid, and he communicated himself well. And he just basically told you what you were gonna do, and then says, hey, you wanna go to lunch, And me and Val Kilmer, I remember being in the scene with Val, and we're shooting, and David's giving me direction, and Val starts singing Ebony and Ivory. And I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? And but that's how, I'm just giving you a reflection of how it was to be on the set. They were guys who I just loved, and come to know their reputation and their work more so later. And that's kind of my method on.
Well, Val Kilmer's got quite a reputation. I mean, that precedes him.
Oh, okay.
It must have been interesting. Did you have a lot of rehearsal time with him, or how did you?
No, we never rehearsed.
Really?
I'm glad. I think it's only been 1 or 2 films I've ever rehearsed for so far.
Is that a good thing in your opinion, or because a lot of actors want rehearsal on films?
Well, Antoine Fisher, we didn't rehearse. And I think because Denzel was pressed for time, so being that was my first film, I had nothing to go on, it was like, well, that's the way it should be. So anytime any other film says we're gonna rehearse, I'm like, peace. You know, I didn't want anything to do with it, you know. I wanted to kind of reserve myself for the on screen.
But with a Mamet film, with that kind of dialogue and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we didn't rehearse. We just he just told me what to do. Yeah.
Now you did Friday Night Lights, which is now a television series, actually. And Peter Berg directed that, and got to be football. Yeah, so that was fun.
Huh?
Did
no.
You? No, it wasn't.
No, because what I respect about Peter Berg he says, Derek, if you work out, he didn't tell me to what extent. He says, I'll buy you a box of Krispy Kremes when we're done, which he still owes me. And it was 6 months training, and my diet basically was broccoli, egg whites, and chicken breast with no seasoning for 6 months.
Oh my God.
And because I went and I started like studying, and this character, he said he had a man body, but he was a boy. So I went to this fitness coach, and I says, well, how can I leave the youth in my face, but make my body, mannish. And he says, well, what you do is, Derek, you take the salt out of your diet. And every other thing that represents salt. So you're just gonna take this, and he says it's gonna be really crucial, but you have to do this for the next 6-7 months. And that's how much it meant to me to play Booby. So it was kind of more than just playing football. It was like Jenny Craig to the highest, That's
the real dedication that an actor goes through there to do that.
Well, I found out. Yeah.
And what was the experience like for you shooting? They shot it in Texas?
It was. We shot all over Texas, and it was great working with Peter Berg, who I think is great. I really like actor-directors because they kind of know how to leave you in your zone. And they know when to, for instance, knock on your door and say, it's time to present. And they know how to undisturbingly direct you through a scene without taking you out of where you're headed. They sharpen it. So that's what it was like being in the film with Pete, and then shooting in Texas was like, it's just a place where they breed athletes in this country.
Now, did you have much experience playing football before this?
No, I played PlayStation, but no, I never played. No, I played street football.
Yeah.
I mean, I broke my finger. I mean, but that was like maybe 12 years old, but never organized football.
What is it with you in all these movies where you suddenly have to be in these sports, though? Because soccer on Catch a Fire and Glory Road was basketball.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the new black. I don't know. I don't know. It's to me, how I look at it is that I thought Antoine Fisher touched a nice portion of people, but lo and behold, after Friday Night Lights, there was not one college campus that I was not allowed on to go down into the football arena and those sports. And it was not one, and then Glory Road opened up meeting people like Charles Barkley and all these other. So sports arena was a total different arena in demographics. And, I think that's where a lot of our men are in this country. So I felt privileged.
Glory Road was a great movie. It's a great story, and I love the ending of the movie too, where they had the real people on the credits. People never leave before the end of credits now, because there's so many good things in credits and at the end of movies now.
Yeah.
But that was really an amazing, story. What attracted you to doing Glory Road in the first place?
Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to break away from the dramatic role, and I wanted to break into action. And I know that Jerry's rhythm was kind of action orientated, the way his film goes. And then the other reason was I needed the job. I was broke, maybe, I think, yeah. But it was a good story, and you can't get enough of telling good inspirational stories.
Were you aware of this story before you got the script or before you got involved in the project?
No, but I was aware of so many other stories that were similar. And a lot of times, honestly, what attracts me to roles, which is a blessed position, is that I kind of take where I'm from, and in the kind of the top 10 questions, it makes me pick and choose that way. There was a lot of young men, a lot of African American men that had dreams, visions, and goals, and just felt like it's entirely difficult to make this dream, this vision happen. So I like that movie being in films that kind of challenge the status quo, and that's how it comes about.
Now, Catch a Fire, which is the movie of the moment here for you, and it's such a terrific performance and another great story. Again, playing a real life person that you did spend time with this time, Patrick Chamuso.
Yes.
Can you talk about how this project came into your life? And you mentioned earlier that you did audition for it.
Yeah. Well, it came through my agency, ICM, and I thought. Honestly, I said to myself, am I repeating myself with Antoine Fisher? Because I thought it had all the emotional elements in there to parallel this story with that one. And my wife, she insisted, she says, Derek is entirely different. And basically, and so did my agents and my team. And I auditioned for Philip Noyce, and that whole week, and I've been thinking about that role, and it was brewing in my heart. So I walked in the audition, and I didn't speak to him, and I saw him getting a little offended. So I was in my mind. I was like, well, do I break my character or do I speak? So I just says, forget him. I need this. I like this role so much that I want to convince him that this is that I can tell the story through my instrument. So that was kind of the gist of.
Wow. And so the result of that was that one or two auditions, or what was the process?
Well, I auditioned. He said I had the role immediately, but I don't think I found out about the role about a month. I don't know what's up with this month thing, but I didn't find out that I had this role for about a month and a half. And
they're probably saying on the other end, I think we can get Derek Luke, and get the rest of the financing in order, and then.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because my hat goes off to Tim Robbins. And again, about humility is that here's another actor, and it doesn't. What I learned many times, people try to throw situations and reasoning in why you got this because of status quo, you got this because of quota. But Tim Robbins didn't have to come to this film, and when he did come to this film, it expedited the process of getting this film made, and he was one of the major reasons why this film was greenlit. And being a younger actor and a guy that was more seasoned to allow us to have equal time, my hat just goes off to Tim Robbins.
Now, working with Tim, because he's obviously playing the main nemesis in this film, an evil guy, but with really interesting shadings. I mean, he's not like this cookie cutter villain type that he could have been.
Right.
You know? And I'm wondering, did you guys hang out on the set, or did you play your roles the whole time, or?
I tried to play my role all the time, but Tim has been around for a while. So every time I would be in my character series, Tim comes around with a joke, and he just starts talking and says, Derek, and I'm like, dude, why are you talking? Don't you see me? I'm in character. And I thought he was talking to me maybe because we were the only Americans in South Africa, and he finally invited me to a reggae hip hop club in South Africa, and where he was the only brunette white man in the crowd, 6'4", 6'4.5", just jumping up and down. So, but when we did spend time, it was very intense, because his technical advisor was an actual torturer from the 1980s. And my technical advisor was the guy who really mirrored the character that I was playing. And when the real guy couldn't be there, the guy, my technical advisor was present. And we were at a reading one time, and even the producer, Anthony Magella, was there. And this guy was kind of, I felt, justifying the apartheid movement. And so it was like Tim's people was on his side, and then my people were on this side of the table. Wow. And it was like a lion. I just lashed out. And I just verbally just started, not cursing, but just saying, how dare you, how could you? And just, I couldn't hold it anymore. So it was, one side, it was very fun, and the other side was very intense. It was like we were two different people. And so, wow. Yeah.
Now, Patrick Chamuso was there, and you spent time with him before you started shooting the picture. You actually went to South Africa. Was this the first time you'd ever been there?
This is the first time I had been to Africa, and I was flown out to do a boot camp, which consisted of for about 6 weeks.
What is a boot camp in this regard? What did you do?
I had a dialect coach who was the same dialect coach for Don Cheadle for Hotel Rwanda. I was asked to drop 15 pounds of muscle, not fat. Muscle is totally different.
Can't use the Peter Berg diet there.
No. This was no meat.
Yeah.
No meat, no carbs.
Oh.
So my breakfast was apples, my lunch was a salad with lemon, and then my dinner was steamed green vegetables. And but it was essential because nobody had an Equinox or Bally's membership during the apartheid movement, so I needed to look the part.
Right.
And then I met the real Patrick, and I also visited Robben Island.
Yeah, tell us about Robben Island, which is where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, and
Right.
Patrick, and what happened there? That was a research visit, field trip for you, or?
Yeah, well, Robben Island, if whoever had not been to South Africa before, was a place where all the political prisoners was held. And basically, God bless you, basically now the ex-political prisoners who was in prison run the country. They're like the Congress, they're like the president, a very interesting place. And when you go there, so the political prisoners give you a tour, and I had a question for Patrick, why he didn't seek revenge in his life. And it was answered through this man. He basically says, hey, Derek, I was sentenced to life. And if I didn't forgive, hate would kill me first. And so he went to prove his point by taking me on a field trip of Robben Island, and he gave me this key, and it was 46666. And I didn't really relate it to the situation. He told me to open up the cell, and he says, lay down. And I looked back at him. I'm like, hey, So I lay down, and he says, are you comfortable? I says, no. And he says, because the person that laid here was 3 inches taller than you, and this was the cell of Nelson Mandela. And I says, well, man, where did he use the restroom? And he says, there was no restroom. It was that pail over there. And I says, well, where did he eat? Where did he wash his clothes? And he says, right over there. And right at that point, it brought closure to who my guy, Patrick, was, how he could come out of these four walls with such a forgiving spirit that impacted the whole country.
When you first met Patrick, what were the things he was most interested in about you as the actor that's going to play him?
Well, he thought Denzel Washington should play him. I was like, hey, man, not a bad choice. I said, then he thought he looked like Cuba Gooding Jr. So I says, man, I can't get a break. And then he asked me, I had all these questions for him, and then he said, and every time I would ask him, he would interrupt me, and he asked me, he looked me in my face, he says, do you know Beyonce? And I says, man, I'm in Africa, man. I'm in here in the middle, I'm wanting to play you, and you talking about Cuba and Denzel. Now he asked me about Beyonce. Well, I understood why he asked me about Beyonce, but, but that was what it was like to meet Patrick Tramuso for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, but it's an amazing story too that goes on now because he's got really an orphanage taking care of all these kids with.
Yeah, he has like 90 orphans, and that impressed me about him because it was two things. One, these guys didn't have any movie theaters next to them, so for Patrick to win these kids, it had to be pure love. Then the other part was the fact that you know, he kept his word. After he served, he went back and he says, I feel a responsibility to take care of the nation. I'm not a soldier, Derek. You know, I'm just a regular man, and I want to do my part. So, amazing guy.
What was the biggest challenge for you, and specific scenes there that were the toughest things to get, and you know, to really feel like you were bringing his experience to the screen?
Several. One, dialect. It was very hard because just in South Africa alone, they speak about 11 different languages, and I just had a problem learning English, you know. And they're speaking 11, and when I'm doing some scenes, sometimes I'm speaking one tribal language, and then I'm switching to another, and it's all like clicks of the tongue and sla la la. So the way you move your tongue, and I'm like, man, how can I sla la la and focus? You know, it was a challenge. But I think one of the toughest scenes was the torture scene because is when the real men reenact the moment, and it really brought tears to everyone on the set.
What's been the reaction for you? I mean, compared to other films that you've done, have you gotten a lot of reaction to this particular performance and this particular role?
I got a huge reaction, and it's interesting because I felt like this was the most challenging and the role where I felt like I had less a grip on, because being that this was a film that takes place in South Africa, like Antoine Fisher, I just go from California to Cleveland.
Right.
Here I'm going to another country embodying a different type of people, different lifestyle, different culture. And I had to participate, as I call it, as a producer, not just behind the scenes, but I had to participate in front of the back and front. And it was interesting that, you know, any accolades or any recognition, because I just felt like I didn't have it together. So things has been going really well. I've been walking the street and been very positive, and you know, got an award, which was really cool. And
didn't you even run into Sidney Pollack,
Oh.
who actually is one of the executive producers of Catch a Fire?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't on the set, I guess, but
No, as a matter of fact, in the gift shop, I used to sell Sidney Pollack newspapers. And I saw him about a month ago at an opera, you know, and I ran up to him and I hugged him, and I said, "Do you know who I am?" and I said, wait, let me tell you. I said, I used to sell you, sir, newspapers. And I forget what else you used to get, but magazines, and you used to come in there daily. And he says, I know who you are, you're Derek. And I says, oh my God. And we just begin to converse, and you know, I just felt like I saw one of my idols or mentors. You know?
yeah, come full circle there.
Definitely.
Wow. Well, now we have some questions from the audience. So this is a part I call Get to Know Derek Luke. The audience gets to know you here with their questions. And I'm not sure what they're asking here. So if I have a name on here, I will read your name and your question. This one is from Dre Michael Cheney, SAG 546842. There you are.
Man, that's all right. Wow.
When you were working at the store on the studio lot and struggling as an actor, what kept you going?
Oh, man. Well, I think I touched on some of it, but a lot of it was I made whatever believed in me my friend. And it could have been a book, could have been a movie or a situation. I stayed from anybody and everybody that didn't see eye to eye. I remember, you know, again, not talking about race or opposition, but the first guy who gave me a job he was Jewish, And at that time, they were like, well, you know, this can't happen and that can't happen. So anybody that befriended me, I befriended them. And again, a book my mother gave me inspired me, and I would watch movies of my favorite actors. And I stayed in that circle, even though they weren't human. But I stayed in that circle until it birthed a manifestation of confidence.
Tarnisha and Britton. This is like two people. Oh, right there. Hi.
Hi.
Did you ever come to a point where you doubted your talent or that you would ever be successful as an actor? That's a good question, because a lot of people come to that point.
I think I doubted myself more after my first film than I did before, because I had the expectation of filling people's expectation when I go in the room to audition now. I'm like, well, what are they expecting? You know, and it became more of a mental challenge, and I began to strip my confidence, and I really had to work on that. So I would say that the opposition came more after, because before I didn't know these people. You know, they didn't know me. But so hopefully that answered.
Do you ever second you make a film and it doesn't turn out the way you wanted or something like that, and you just go like, why did I do that? Or
Oh man, almost every minute.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, even with Catch a Fire, I was calling my agents and saying, "Hey man, get me out of here." You know, I didn't, because I mean, there were so many different situations. I mean, we switched DPs in the middle. Gloria Road, we had to switch DPs in the middle. It was just all these things that I was learning as an individual, which was just part of, I guess, normal filmmaking. Yeah.
Do you? Some actors don't like watching themselves on screen after they do something. I've heard some of these like superstars that say they've never seen a film after they left the set.
Yeah.
Never even seen it once.
No, I usually sneak. I usually sneak into a crowd on the first opening weekend. I got caught the other week, by the way. I sneak in and I sit in the back and I enjoy it with a regular audience. And I listen to see, you know, where the highs, the lows are, where people are invested most. But that's what I do. But I try not to make anybody else's law mine, because you know, I may be able to watch myself, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who have been your teachers, acting and otherwise?
Marriage and life. Marriage, because you have to listen. You have to listen. At any time, they can catch you and say, "You're not listening to me." And when you really listen, you really become the greatest reactor, because you're sincere. So I would say for marriage, and then life, because where I'm from. You know, I don't like saying the hood, but the inner city had so many poetries, had so much poetry. So many people were from so many different places. And I didn't know that everybody that I would, as a kid, walk to school, that all those men, whether drunk or successful or drug dealers, that their legacy would become my lifestyle as far as playing them, and what I can go on when I play these real characters. So it was life and marriage.
Do you have any acting teachers that you study with or have studied with, or is there anybody that?
I studied for about 1.5 years when I first came to LA. It was like '97, and both of them passed away, and they were from the Negro Ensemble. And I sought them out because I wanted to know where some of the most gifted actors are: Samuel Jackson, Lawrence Fishburne, Denzel Washington, where they came from. So I sought out this group. It was the Negro Ensemble, but the two teachers passed away.
Dear Derek, oh, this one doesn't have a name, so who wrote Dear Derek? There you are.
Hey.
What's your name? Roshan, yeah.
Okay.
Before you began working as a paid actor, what did you do to stay positive and motivated to keep chasing your dream?
Again, you stay around, people that believe in you. Working in a gift shop is a great place to find out about people and about yourself. It didn't matter whether you were executive or you worked in the mailroom. Most people were frustrated or mad or angry. It had nothing to do with their jobs. It had something to always do with internal. So I'm always trying to figure out, internally how I can make some adjustments.
Didn't the person that you worked for in the gift shop come to a screening of
Wow, that was deep. Yeah, my old boss, John Kramer, who was a blessing to me, who allowed me to take my lunch breaks and sometimes gave me 2.5 hours. I would call him from Hollywood. I'm like, hey, the audition line is taking longer than I thought. And he was like, Derek, take your time. And, that meant a lot for me, being that I was taking care of my wife, because those challenges come. You think about leaving your spouse for your dream. And I had mentors that would say, Derek, the strongest businessmen in the world is people that have that foundation. So you don't want to do that. But I was definitely tempted too, because this is the place of dreams, But it turned out that my wife became my best friend, best motivator.
Neil?
Yes.
Okay, right there. Okay, your agent will love to hear this. What agency were you with before Antoine Fisher, and what agency are you with after? Can you talk about the transition from struggling actor to where you are now, I guess, and he wants to know first, we'll ask specifically with agencies, what agency were you with before?
I don't like putting agencies on blast, and I said blast, I'm sorry. I don't like putting people out there and talking about people. 4 months prior, before Antoine Fisher, me and my wife was at another agency, and we were let go. And just from what I got from my upbringing, I never spoke those people's name out. I just think it's good for you. I think the reward is knowing who was not for you. My reward was not disrespecting representation, you know what I'm saying? So I'm presently now with an awesome agency, but I'm being honest. I won't BS you. What I like about ICM is that they're actor orientated, that I like their style. I like that from the agency, most actors from there, they have careers. And no matter how much the changing time happens, they change with it to get your vision told. So that's what I like about my agency. Yeah.
And can you talk about the transition from struggling actor to where you are now? So that's sort of what you have been talking about, a lot of it.
Yeah. Thanks to you. Okay.
Okay. Clay Woods. Right there, okay.
Hey.
What related crafts, i.e. writing, directing, producing, are you currently pursuing, if any? That's a real interesting question, because you've worked for actors that have, become directors, that are directors. So what do you want to do?
When I was on Glory Road, I really, there was a particular actor on it that always asked me advice, and I was just humored and humbled at the same time. And when I was on there, it really just enforced that I really wanted to direct and write. And it wasn't more of a new thing, but it was like directing and writing kind of put a crown on the written dreams and poetry I had been writing in my journals. And so writing and directing is definitely
something you want to do? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know I'll be doing it pretty soon.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas that you want to share with us?
Any ideas you want to share with me?
There we go. There we go. You're going to be a producer too, I can tell. Okay, Stephen Turner, right there. Hi, Stephen. Look back.
Okay. Wow.
Look back in retrospective. Do you feel your prayers on your career have been answered, or bigger than what you could have expected? Is it going better than What you ever dreamed, basically, is what he's asking.
Yes, it's going. I'm getting to travel the world, and when I first came to LA, I kind of just before I got my SAG card, and then up to the point I got my SAG card, I remember being in the SAG office where you pay your money, and and I was hating paying it over and over again. But I stopped, and I don't know how many people was behind me, and I got on my knees, and I said, there's going to become a day where this number is so frequently used to deposit into Screen Actors Guild that before I finish my number, you'll know who it is. So that was my dream. I'm just words are vehicles to my success. So that's why I'm always speaking things that I believe in. Yeah.
Barshim Bernard.
That's me.
All right.
Excuse me, I got the card late, so my question.
You can
Go ahead, man. Just yell it out.
This is what I really wanted to ask you. It's nice to meet you, brother.
Hey, nice meeting you too, man.
How did you steer clear of stereotypical inner city films?
Huh.
Or did you even think of it that way? Like, I didn't want to do this kind of role. I don't want to typecast, and it's something like that.
How'd you stay clear of stereotypical inner city films and?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I studied Denzel a lot, and what I mean by that is that on before I got a chance to study him, but it was like I tried to find out what every successful man was made of, and it was important that that lineup was multicultural, because there was no excuse in that lineup. So I says, well, how did they beat the system? And when I looked at everybody in that lineup, it always had something to do with their thinking. So when I kind of calculated that, I started looking for books and people that influence the way you think. And I couldn't help but get away from a grandmother and mother who always read scripture to me. And the one scripture I remember was, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so I says, I need to totally reprogram my heart and my way I think, regardless of what I see. And anything negative that I would read, even in a African-American magazine, I would stop reading it. When I would see an African-American movie advertised that I thought was not going to be aligned with my future, and there was no disrespect to that, I wouldn't go see it. I kept on seeing the Leonardo DiCaprios and kept on seeing the Matt Damons. And I looked at them and I says, there is nothing more that I admire about them. It's just their craft and them getting to tell their story. So I have to tell mine. So that was it. Yeah.
Anna Khalifa? Khalifa. There you are.
Hey.
Congratulations on your film Catch a Fire and your superb performance. Are projects coming to you now? Do you still audition? We know that. And who's your agent? We already talked about that. But are you finding a lot of projects coming your way and having to make all these decisions and things?
There's projects coming. Again, I'm always on a very positive, not optimistic, but positive receiving side. And to answer your question, there are scripts and there are projects being presented and more whispered. But I just always stay on my toe. I always stay on my toes, and I learned that from Denzel. He says, never rely on your old performance. He says, run to the next one. So I'm looking and receiving for that next one. But yeah, there are other projects coming.
Would you be interested in theater, in doing stage in addition to films? Or?
Yeah, I do it all the time, but I would love to. I would love to do, just was talking to a couple of friends about doing stage. I saw Jeffrey Wright in Manhattan, him and Mos Def doing Top Dog, Underdog, and I was so impressed. And I love both of those guys, and I was like, man, I want to get up there with them, you know. So at the right time.
Speaking of current projects, right now you're in New York. In fact, you're going back tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you go in a few minutes. But you know, definitely maybe is the name of the movie. Tell us about that.
It's 100 minutes. I don't. You know, it's different because there's a huge group of actors in there, and it seems like I just come to make painting signs on this huge canvas, and I'm not, you know, which is a little bit different. So, not being complicated, but I'm still gathering what my character is about, believe it or not. So, but anyway, it's a romantic comedy, and it's centered around the Clinton campaign.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah.
All right, who's in it with you?
Ryan Reynolds,
Oh, yeah.
Rachel Weisz, Elizabeth Banks, Isla Fisher, and many other people that I'm not supposed to name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good cast.
Yeah, really great cast.
Yeah. Before we go, does anybody have any questions they just want to ask from the audience? Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks for coming out, by the way.
Thank you.
You mentioned a book earlier in your in the conversation concerning the audition that helped you make a breakthrough in your audition process.
Uh-huh.
Could you give me the name of that book?
What's the name of the book that gave you the breakthrough in the audition process?
I'll give you the author. His name is a Bohemian writer. His name is Miles Monroe. And his books it's a kind of a spiritual base, but he specializes on analogies of birthing your dreams into reality. And being I had, you know, again, nothing to negotiate with, you know, I was ready to do anything. So, you know, Miles Monroe.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
You've spoken about agents. Can you tell us about the role that managers and lawyers have played in your career?
Now, what's the role of managers and lawyers in your
Are you
career?
CIA? You know, well, I think that you're a great team. Always is your hands and feet. They do what you cannot do. And then creatively, they are artistic at framing your career and either getting you to see, or it's good sometimes when you object, because I think, you know, it means that somebody's passionate about you. I remember I came out here and people were like, this is Jennifer Lopez's coach, and this is Tom Hanks' coach. And then I learned one lesson. The best coach is to find a coach that's interested in you. And then you'll tell your story. And so as far as managers and agents, I think that it's about chemistry. Or I should say I learned that it was about chemistry. And,
How about lawyers, though?
ooh. Are you on trial? No. I think it's the same thing. It's agents and lawyers are like best friends in the sense that, you know, what group do you hang with? And being that you have that, you know, something to tell you in your heart, you know, who you should be around, who you mesh with, it all goes together, because these are the people, hopefully, that you're with for the rest of your life.
Anybody else? Yeah.
My name's Bianca Bay.
Hi.
Hi. You said that you and your wife were let go by a previous agent.
Yes.
What was the reason, and what did you learn from that?
What was the reason you were let go from the agent, you and your wife, and what did you learn from that?
Sure, we wasn't bringing in any work. You know? The both of us, I'm like, God, they're like, come on, Luke, you should come do something. You know? But you know what? It wasn't that long. I walked into the agent, and he said to me, and this is about you and people, not necessarily titles. He said, you know, there are many people walked out on me, but I hope you don't. And I had a funny feeling in my heart, like, something's weird about this. It seems like I'm signing my life away. Like I'm getting a credit card with 24% interest, you know? And basically, I learned that no matter whether people are real, the most important person being real is you. So when he let me go, the reality of my dream was still present. So I says, hey, cool. I says, all right. And my wife was like, "Ooh." And I'm like, babe. I says, no, babe. I says, no, remember the seminar. No. I says, no. I says, listen. I says, babe, the best is yet to come. And this is great because this unveils who you're not supposed to be with. And never sell these people out, ever. And that's what I learned to this day. Because there's some people that you will come in contact with that you met prior before so-called light shined on you, and you shouldn't do them a bad one. You should just take it and say, I was so blessed to see them way before, and now I can go, you know?
Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
My question was, when was your first brush with stardom? Like when you're like, yes, I made it. Like your first autograph that you gave, your first fan that you met.
Oh, the taste of celebrity. She wants
My
to know
first
about
check.
that.
Forget all that. Move that top ramen over. You know? Come on. Me and my wife used to go on the plane and we would touch the seats, first class. And we were like, we believe one day, believe. And then we would go by restaurants that, you know, like I would take my wife out and I'm like, I'm not hungry. It was mainly because I didn't have any money. Wow. So all the restaurants that we didn't have any money, we would just say that, you know, one day. So really taking the person you really care about to a nice dinner over and over and over again, buying clothes, the best over and over again, shopping till you drop food-wise, not worrying about it. To me, that's success, because that's what I didn't have before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry Zahalski.
Hey.
Do you build a character like from the ground up, or do you work it with it where you are now, or do you just learn your lines the best you can?
So
no.
what's your process with taking on a character, basically?
The external part of a character is always the last for me to put on, because you know, the way I approach a character is like by his spirit. And once you know the spirit of the scene, you know, you may walk into a place and see a guy's jacket, a hat, and a boot, and you're trying to figure out how to put it on. But the reason why it's a problem is because you didn't seek his soul first to see who this person was. So I call it, I get dressed last. That's my process. I focus on the person's spirit first and see who they are, why they do what they do. And then, so it's more of a spiritual process. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
How you doing?
Yeah, great.
Question about when you first started and you had that rework with Denzel.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I would think that intimidation would play a part and kind of freeze you up a little bit. What did you do to get past it, or did you experience it, or? You know?
What did you do to get past, if you were intimidated by working with Denzel Washington?
No, I was intimidated by, it's amazing, I was intimidated by a lot of, and no disrespect, a lot of people that was on a lower rank than I was with him. What I learned from him was the ability to be up there and to be humble. And, you know, the only time, maybe, that intimidated me was the first half of shooting Antoine Fisher. He was directing me and he wasn't in the scene. And we shot in Cleveland. And he would come, he would have his beard and, you know, his hat on, and sweatpants. We got to San Diego. First scene I shot, he comes in and he's all clean. I was like, ah! oh my God, Denzel! You know what I'm saying? So I was like, so I said, oh my goodness. Because I'm looking at him when he's out of character, and I couldn't find his, I found a little of this, a little Malcolm, a little Mo Better and all that. But man, they give a brother a haircut and he's a different person. You know what I'm saying? My goodness. Wow.
Hey. Yep.
This is an article on Park statement after the question.
Okay.
Who was your eighth grade teacher? Ms. Richardson? Did you have Ms. Sullivan? Did you have Ms. Grotschild? Or did you have,
Name them really quick again.
Ms. Grotschild? Miss Timmons? Ms. Sullivan?
Oh, she was.
Ms. Richardson?
Miss Sullivan looked like Halle Berry, man. So even if she wasn't my eighth grade teacher, I'm saying she was. Sure. Really? Wow, man. Man, as a kid, she was hot.
All right, eighth grade teachers. Yeah, over there.
How you doing? My name is Richard Durden.
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Do you choose character or roles similar to your character, or do you challenge yourself? Like, I'm trying to play this role because it's something that is really different from me. Like, how do you go about choosing a character?
How do you go about choosing a character that you want to play? Do you challenge yourself every time, or what is it?
Sometimes there's an opportunity to challenge myself and stretch, just like Catch a Fire and dialect and being in another country. But a lot of times I pay attention to actors with careers that I admire. And one thing I thought, looking at a lot of those guys, what I think beyond taking, I call it hardest meaning acting with heart. A lot of the actors that I admire, a lot of their careers consisted, or personally, I think that they were generationally sensitive, that they just didn't do movies that wasn't, relative to the time. And sometimes I do desire to do movies that's not relevant to the time, but I liked when I'm walking down the street and a man or a woman or a young person have more conversations with me than, just say good movie. Rarely do I get good movie. Most of the time I get, let me ask you about this. When this such and such happened in the story, and I get the reward. So I'm looking to follow that path, but sometimes I want to be in a movie where you just blow things up. Who are
the
that
actors?
was a long-winded answer.
Who are the actors you admire? You mentioned definitely some.
Well, two of the guys that I was particularly talking about, and I admire all of them, but Sidney Poitier and Denzel Washington, I just saw that they accepted the responsibility for their generation, and then they told their stories the best way they could, Brad Pitt and all those, Will Smith, all those guys I love too, so I want to balance it.
Yeah, in the back there, yeah. Yes, you, yes.
Hi, I think you read my mind because you just sort of answered my question.
See? Yeah, that's what
You are psychic.
I got Danny Glover's autograph once, and he wrote "Keep a Good Heart," and you just talked about heart and the people that influenced you and meant a lot to you, and you're a little young to start thinking about your legacy, but you've achieved such an enormous amount of artistic success and beginning of your commercial success. So what do you think about in terms of what you want to give to the world and the kind of legacy that you want to pass on when you become the Denzel?
Have you thought about your legacy and what you want to pass on?
It's partly in how you live your life, I understand.
Yeah. Again, sometimes the movies that come by, it's easy to make it a philosophy of that's what I did. But many times when I'm in the middle of choosing or saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do, just a temptation to abort my dream, abort the legacy that had been starting to be laid out. You know, some pictures that are made, I'm not a fan of. And many times when I would see the Al Pacinos, the Denzels, as a young kid, I'm trying to remember why they inspired me. And I'm thinking that if just one person tries to repeat that legacy from their point of view, that, you know, maybe you will ignite more of yourselves for that next generation, opposed to, like Patrick said, he says, Derek, if I didn't forgive Tim Robbins' character in this film, I was scared that that generation was going to take on my responsibility. So, yeah.
Way in the back, yeah.
Derek Thompson here.
Hey.
Everybody.
Oh my goodness. Hey, how you doing?
I just want to say that I'm very proud of you.
Huh.
We went to acting school years ago.
Yes, we did.
And you know, when you said you've been married almost 8 years, I'm saying, Jesus Christ. It just seems like a couple of years ago, but you know, keep up the good work. And all the struggles that he said he went through, he really went through, because we talked about it. You know, and one of the most poignant moments I think that we had during the time we were together, we talked on the phone and you said a prayer, and I really appreciate that.
Oh.
And good luck, man.
All right.
Hey, man. Thank you.
I wanted to know, hi, my name is Lejean.
Lejean.
And I'd like to know, from working on, from either Antoine, Fisher, Glory, all of the films, can you share with us what was one of the most craziest moments that you experienced working on any of those films? Or one of them?
You remember a crazy moment on any film that you've worked on?
Two crazy moments, Catch a Fire, Antwone Fisher. I was amazed that it was a scene in Antwone Fisher where Antoine, Denzel's character tells Antoine, hey, you know, this is it, no more, and you know, you need to go find your parents. What was crazy about it was there was no lines for that scene. And Denzel came and says, come with me to my trailer. And I'm like, yeah, you know. and I'm following him, and he's like, he says, he put the responsibility on him. He says, man, I gotta motivate you more. He says, he's asking me, what do I think? And I'm just like looking at him as his head is in the script. And at that moment, I felt like it was a time to stop being a child, that he was putting responsibility on me. And I saw this, you know, actor who I looked up to have a vulnerable side. You know, for a second, it seemed like he didn't know what he was gonna do, but we were gonna work it out. So there was no lines. Chaotic on Catch a Fire was that the last scene when my character is coming from Robben Island. Philip Noyce is in a helicopter, he's shooting, and basically between the takes, everybody was just throwing up. And he would say, he says, okay, ready to shoot, and everybody, and then straighten themselves out, you know, so I'm giving you a little humor and seriousness, but right now, that's the only thing.
And you should play the Sidney Poitier story.
Oh, man.
We can tear that out.
Really cool.
The
Thank
Sidney
you.
Poitier story. Wow. That's that would be something. Yes.
A lot of the actors you mentioned are also involved in all kinds of humanitarian efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any that you're involved in?
Humanitarian efforts that you're involved in or that you would like to be? Or
Yeah, well, I help my mother. She has a nonprofit organization in Jersey, and it basically takes kids who have been on no education, teach them how to dream. She clothes them and shows them how to go on a job and present themselves. And I'm very active with that because it was just those few words in my whole life that changed my life. So I'm such a word major that I want to make sure I impact other people's lives by, sending words to them. So me and my mother are collaborating on a job opportunity entertainment side in Jersey to allow kids and all over the world to express themselves.
That's cool. I got time for one more, and then we're going to let him go because he's got to go to New York tonight. So yes, right there.
It's actually kind of a two-parter. I'm curious to know what you love most about acting, and maybe what scares you or any fears as an actor. So
Okay. Part one, what do you love most about acting?
What I love most about acting is that there's a place in acting where it's freedom for me. The fear is that I think I'm more powerful than I come off. Many times my approach on the set is very reverent, and there's nothing wrong with reverencing your cast. But I just found out that acting was bigger than developing my character. Now I found out that me coming on this film, I have power to impact the whole story. And I have been noticing that for the last 2.5 films. And I kind of refrained from that. So I just kind of moved from selfishness to, more giving. That, I have a part in me that's bigger than my role. And just to give it, just to be honest and with the whole scheme of things, and not worry about what person think, just because it's a natural instinct. So, but most of all, I want you to know how thankful I am that anybody came out to see me tonight. I remember working as a page on a Martin show, and I would run out and nobody would be there, and I would look at the stage and I was like, ah! And then I would leave. And now I come out and there's people that are taking their time, literally, to come out tonight and talk to me and talk with me. And I get something when you ask questions. I find out about myself and I find out about you. And it is so thankful, so thankful that you come out here to ask me questions. The only thing about, success that I really like is if I get to be myself. So thank you. God bless you. It's awesome. Thank you.
Derek Luke, thank you so much.
And one thing, this is what my mother did for me, and I don't know how many people are in here with dreams, but I'm gonna do it. May be risky, but I want to say a prayer for you. God, I just ask that everybody in this room that are birthing a dream, a vision, an idea, I ask that you give birth to it, show them how to do it, that you may confirm their reality. Many people are going through different things in their life, and there's nothing great like fulfilling your dream, fulfilling your purpose, and I ask that the right person comes to them, the right husband or wife, the right friend, and that they may capitalize on that. So I pray that their dreams and their visions come true. And this is what you did through my mom and through my grandmom, and when they prayed for me, and it impacted my life. And I didn't really understand prayer, but if anything, I just want to share that with you, and God bless you. Thank you.